Welcome back. Today, we're exploring a deeply profound, yet honestly rarely discussed reality that almost every single doctorate holder eventually faces. I'm talking about the post-PhD void. Okay, let's dive into this explainer on a really striking concept from the book Beyond the Dissertation, which tackles exactly what happens when that massive, looming mountain of grad school is finally conquered. Picture this. The graduation caps are thrown in the air, the family photos are taken, and you've officially earned that title you literally spent years bleeding for. But then, the celebrations end. Your inbox goes from, 50 urgent emails a day to just absolute silence. The constant driving march of deadlines just completely stops. It's a wildly jarring moment. You've been running this relentless marathon for years, and suddenly you've crossed the finish line and there is nowhere left to run. So, what happens when the noise stops? Just let that sit for a second. What happens when the noise stops? This is the central question the source material poses. What does it actually look like to sit with the silence that follows such a monumental achievement? Because as we're going to see, navigating this quiet space is absolutely crucial for building a purposeful life beyond the dissertation. So let's unpack the 4 key steps the author lays out for navigating this exact and often tricky transition. The very first step on this journey is to resist the urge to rush. When you finish a PhD, that sudden lack of structure can feel incredibly jarring. Honestly, it's downright uncomfortable. It is so tempting to immediately fill that void with a brand new project, or doom-scrolling postdoc applications at 2 a.m., or just continuous grinding hustle. We do this simply to quiet the discomfort of not having a clear, immediate objective. We're so conditioned to be productive all the time that stillness can mistakenly feel like a failure. But here's the thing. As the author points out, unprocessed endings lead directly to unclear beginnings. If we just rush forward, we carry all that heavy baggage of the past without actually understanding it. We have to take a deliberate step back to reflect deeply on what the PhD gave us and, just as importantly, what it cost us. Because without honestly evaluating where you've been and the toll it took on you, you absolutely cannot purposefully decide where you're going next. You've got to process the ending to clear the path for the beginning. This brings us to a highly surprising second step, acknowledging the hidden grief. Now, what's really interesting about this is grief after achieving one of the highest academic milestones possible. I know, it sounds completely counterintuitive. You're supposed to be thrilled, right? But the book reframes this brilliantly. Experiencing a sense of loss after a major milestone is a deeply necessary, completely normal human experience. In psychology, there's this concept known as the arrival fallacy, the illusion that once we reach our massive goal, we're finally going to reach enduring happiness. And well, when that happiness doesn't permanently materialize, grief sets in. Under the surface, you're doing something deeply emotional. You are mourning the loss of an identity. You aren't just leaving a university program. You're leaving a familiar community. You're leaving a clearly structured path that meticulously defined your daily life, your habits, and really your self-image for years. Giving yourself the permission to honor this loss, to actually feel the weight of this exit, it's not a sign of weakness. Actually, it's an absolute prerequisite before you can truly step forward into something new. Once we've processed that grief, we transition to step 3, reconnecting with personal curiosity. This marks a major directional shift. We're moving from looking backward at what we've lost to looking inward. And notice the emphasis here on personal curiosity. We're not talking about scholarly curiosity bounded by rigid academic methodologies, peer review, or, whatever a funding committee wants to see. We're talking about pure, unadulterated personal interest. Whether that's finally reading a sci-fi novel just for fun, or learning to make sourdough bread without treating it like a rigid lab experiment. Who are you when no one is asking for citations? It's a heavy question, isn't it? Let that land for a moment. For years, your intellectual output has been measured, judged, and bounded by academia. So what genuinely excites you when all of those rigid rules and external validations are completely stripped away? Who is the person underneath all that academic armor? Well, we answer that question by reclaiming the whole person, reclaiming yourself as someone who exists outside the lab, or the library, or the lecture hall. It reignites the soul. You have to consciously move beyond those academic boundaries to find your original spark again. It reminds us of a fundamental, beautiful truth. Life's greatest discoveries often begin far outside the walls of academia. This is where the real work begins, putting the pieces of your broader identity back together. Once you step outside those boundaries, you reach the final, crucial step, rediscovering the sacred silence. And this brilliantly illustrates how we can pivot our entire perspective. We stop viewing the post-PhD stillness as this empty, terrifying void that just has to be filled with noise, and we start seeing it as something profoundly meaningful. It's actually an invitation to a much, much deeper level of self-awareness. The book defines this beautifully. Silence is a sacred threshold where deeper truths emerge and core values can be re-examined. When the applause officially fades and those brand new titles start to lose their initial shine, this silence is where you find your deeper, truer anchors, spiritual, relational, and purposeful. It's a space to realize a really vital lesson. Your self-worth is lived through truth, purpose, and peace. It is not, and never was, simply earned through titles or professional achievements. So the crucial point is how these four phases work together sequentially. When we weave these four phases together, resisting the rush, acknowledging the grief, reconnecting with pure curiosity, and finding the sacred in the quiet, we transform a period of paralyzing uncertainty into a powerful launchpad. I want you to take a mental snapshot of how to navigate your own transition here, turning what feels like a total ending into a highly intentional beginning. Silence is where your next chapter is born. If you're standing in that quiet space today after your dissertation, I really want to challenge you to truly embrace it. It's not something to fear. For a much deeper dive into navigating this transition, make sure to check the bio link for the book, Beyond the Dissertation. And I'm going to leave you with this to ponder today. If your academic title were completely stripped away tomorrow, what is the underlying purpose that would still make you infinitely valuable to the world?